what did you do in terms of asking for alternative facilities to be arranged?
Well, actually, when I asked the NCAA about this setup, they told me that to get around this, they had to make the locker rooms unisex. So what this means is that any male could have walked into our locker room, regardless of if it was someone identifying as a woman or not. And when you're changing into those bathing suits, you're fully exposed, and they were putting us female athletes at risk for any male to walk in the locker room, not just Leah Thomas, who was in fact fully intact with male genitalia, sharing that changing space. It just felt like an organization that was supposed to be protecting us was quite honestly doing the exact opposite of that.
Well, indeed. And I mean, look, it's so shocking because, of course, there is the competitive issue, first of all, before you even get to the changing facilities. Because, am I right in saying, Riley, you actually had to compete against Leah Thomas, who biologically, you knew biologically was a male.
Yes, and let's be totally honest here. The facts were right in front of us. Not even the year before, Thomas was ranked 462nd at best in the men's category, to just 1 year later transfer over to the women's side and win a national title, becoming the fastest female in the country, beating out American record holders and Olympians and the fastest American females of all time. Obviously, the biological differences are there, and anyone who chooses to ignore that is choosing to ignore science and logic and reason and, quite frankly, common sense.
Can I just ask, Riley, because you obviously were in close proximity to Leah Thomas, did you ever actually have a conversation with Leah and just say, look, what's going on here? This feels unfair. You're putting me in a position. Did you ever try and engage directly with Leah to actually work out what was going on? You know, was there some sort of political point being made, for example?
No, we actually didn't. I truthfully felt like my problem wasn't necessarily with Leah. Leah was just following the guidelines that were put in place by these larger organizations who fear so badly accountability, and they lack leadership to the highest degree. And so I didn't have animosity necessarily towards Leah. No, it's not something I would necessarily support or ever engage in myself in terms of transitioning from the body that I believe God gave me. But again, my animosity was not towards Leah. It's more so towards the NCAA for allowing this to happen and subjecting us as female athletes to someone who has different biology than us, different anatomy, different physiology, putting us at risk, and of course at an unfair advantage when it comes to competition.
Totally. And so now you are campaigning for a scenario where trans competitors would need separate changing facilities from biologically female athletes?
Well, here's my thing. No woman should ever have to compare themselves athletically or, based off of their physiology to a man. So in that changing space, I think, well, let's think of it like this. Just a year ago, this would have been some sort of sexual harassment or voyeurism or indecent exposure. But now, not only is it just happening, it's almost as if the NCAA, which again is our National Collegiate Association, is encouraging this. After Thomas won a national title, the NCAA nominated Thomas for 2022 NCAA Woman of the Year. This just feels like a slap in our face.
Well, it's taking the piss. It's taking the mickey out of female athletes. It makes me so angry. And do you know the thing that is actually most frustrating about all of this? Of course, we have huge empathy for people who are on this sort of journey like Leah Thomas says. That isn't an easy life. But the problem is you're raising issues of fairness and safeguarding, right? Both incredibly important. But what will happen is that the left, and I believe this is happening in the US just like it's happening here, is that you will be branded as a TERF, you will be described as transphobic, and they will try and cancel you, just like they are trying to cancel J.K. Rowling here in the UK.
Absolutely. They call you a transphobe, a bigot, hateful. But it doesn't make you any of those things to acknowledge that there are two sexes. that you cannot change your sex and that women deserve fairness, privacy, and equal opportunities. Actually, the UK has done a pretty phenomenal job handling this issue, especially with Amelia Strickler speaking out, which then caused an influx of professional athletes to speak out, both male and female. And so I just applaud Amelia for her courage, which it's crazy to say that it takes courage to stand up to this madness. But you guys are handling this fantastically, and I only hope the U.S. can follow in your footsteps.